Hi everybody, welcome back to my channel. I am here to read chapter 3 from Project Sunlight by June Strong. It is a Saturday night again, and Michael asks Sunlight what she'd like to do. She says she is tired and doesn't feel up to dancing, maybe candlelight and some good food and a drink, a good stiff drink. Michael, what? Why a drink? Sunlight, I don't know. Guess I'm in a black mood. I told you to find a cheerful, uncomplicated date for tonight. I don't think I'll ever be cheerful and uncomplicated again. Michael, you watch too many late movies, Meg. There is enough to make anyone depressed. You ought to have a hobby or something. They are heading through the heavy traffic of downtown Rochester, their destination, a restaurant on the west side of town. Sunlight, I haven't been watching any late night movies. I've been doing something quite different. Michael, like what? Sunlight, you wouldn't believe me if I told you. Michael, try me. Sunlight, reading the Bible. Michael, like Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John? Sunlight, no, only Matthew. Michael, is that why you are in this black mood? Sunlight, indirectly perhaps. If one were to believe all that stuff, life would never be the same again. Michael, you mean if you tried to live by it? Sunlight, either way. Suppose you believed and ignored it all. Very scary way to live. Did you ever read Matthew 5? That chapter alone would turn the world upside down if you put it into practice. What's happening behind all those church doors? Not much, I wager. Or surely it would spill out and onto us sinners sooner or later. Michael, I expect the Christian community has made its impact to one degree or another over the years. Don't be too hard on them. Sunlight, perhaps. When they died at the stake or were tossed to the lions, but how about now? Michael, I saw a mass baptism on television the other day. Would that satisfy you? Sunlight, oh, Michael, honestly. You see, I met this lady in the building. She's lonely because her husband's a businessman who travels a lot, and she suggested we get together on Tuesday nights and we discuss the Bible. It's crazy because she's not that religious type at all, very chic and sophisticated, but I think she's using a Bible for a tranquilizer. Says she feels better when she reads it. I didn't want to appear too stupid next Tuesday, so I've been really digging into Matthew. It doesn't make me feel better. It upsets me somehow. Some of the things Christ said are enough to blow your mind. For instance, he said it's just as bad to hate your brother as to kill him. Michael, given his preference, I expect the brother would prefer to be hated. Sunlight, I guess what Christ was really saying was that it's not enough to just refrain from violence, but that we must love people as well. He's full of impossible little idolisms like that. But let's forget the whole business. Tonight I want to eat, drink, and be merry. I'm very much of this world, I fear. I tremble at her words, but marvel at her insight. Earth Friend is pounding home truth as she reads, but in the end, of course, the choice will be hers. Choice, that precious, dangerous freedom. The hitching post is a lovely place with flowers and fountains and candlelight. Michael and Sunlight, seated in the shadows at a corner table, are a handsome pair. Michael, tall and blonde with a spare leanness about him. Dark brown hair, sober now in his thin, angular face. Dark brown eyes, sober now in his thin, angular face. Sunlight, seated across from him, is in a soft gold suit, looks vulnerable, unable to relax, even in the luxurious setting. Michael sees this and takes her hands. Michael, Maggie, just for tonight, can't you just let go of whatever it is that's eating you up inside? So you lost Jim. You're an intelligent, attractive woman with a whole life ahead of you. He isn't the only man on earth. You said you wanted to eat, drink, and be merry. Let's do that. I want to see you smile, really smile, without all that worry in your eyes. Sunlight. Then order me a drink. Michael. Nothing, motioning to the waiter. That's not how your carpenter friend handled problems? Sunlight. Michael, don't bug me about that. I shouldn't have told you. I want steak, rare, and a baked potato, and a tossed salad with the scrumptious dressing they serve here, and a cocktail. They eat and they drink and they talk. And after a while, Sunlight does laugh, her eyes too bright, her voice rising shrilly over the background music. Michael takes her home. At the door, she senses his disappointment in the evening. Sunlight. You wanted me to laugh, didn't you? There's no laughter in me except when what bubbles up out of the alcohol. Go find someone else, Michael. You and the carpenter would make a good pair. You both have impossible dreams. He tried to invent a fantasy world. You're looking for one. When you find the Pure Land, let me know. In the meantime, don't ask me to laugh. Poor Sunlight. How hurt she is deep at the center of her being, and how tenderly the prince could heal that hurt. My interest grows in the young man, Michael. He exercises great patience towards his perverse little friend. She's quite right that he would make a fine follower of the prince. Tuesday night. I have waited for the night with real interest. Every time Sunlight has picked up the phone, I've trembled lest she break her appointment with Sybil. But now she hustles the girls to bed. Her Bible lies on the table beside the door, so all is well. Carol needs a comic book, and Jennifer struggles with a page of remedial math that her teacher has assigned in the hope that she will regain her former standing in class. Sybil's cleaning girl arrives, and after giving her a few instructions, Sunlight goes down the hall to Sybil's apartment. She gasps a little as she enters, realizing Sybil wasn't joking when she said she sat around all day thinking up new ways to spend money. The apartment contains a tasteful collection of expensive furniture, art objects, and thick rugs, obviously arranged under the skilled hand of a decorator. A fitting background for Sybil, Sunlight thinks. All the neutral tones accented with black and a whisper of red here and there. Fresh flowers on the glass table. And Sybil in a soft black and white lounging outfit, a red scarf at her throat. Sunlight. How do you ever discipline your mind to study in such a place as this? Sybil. I don't see it anymore. Getting this apartment just the way I wanted it occupied me for a long time. But once it was done, I lost interest. Though I do love nice things, I'm restless with my surroundings when my surroundings are out of kilter. Sunlight. You better take a tranquilizer when you come up to my place then. Sybil. I thought your place was cheerful and cleverly done. Undoubtedly, decorating a home presents more of a challenge on a budget, but you've handled it well. Now sink yourself into one of these cream puffs, that's what Bill calls those round velvet chairs, and tell me what you thought of the book of Matthew. Sunlight. For a moment she fumbles for words, then she smiles. Well, for starters, I thought the man, Jesus, was extremely impressed with faith. It seemed the only people he could help were those who had some kind of blind trust in him. Sybil. Would you believe I was so impressed with the same thing that I began to draw a circle around the word faith every time I came to it? Sunlight. Why do you suppose he expected those people to trust him? He was a total stranger. He must have had unbelievable magnetism to entice those common working men away from their jobs. Perhaps it wasn't hard to trust in someone like that. Sybil. Especially after you'd watched him work a few miracles. What do you think would happen if he came today like that, asking us to believe in him? Sunlight. You and Michael would leave everything and march off into the sunset with him. And I'd be a skeptic and probably lose the good life or whatever it is he's coming to bring us. Sybil. Speaking of the good life, what do you make of Chapter 24? Half the time I thought he was talking about some catastrophe that was to come upon the city of Jerusalem, and then it would seem as if he was talking about the end of our planet altogether. Sunlight. Maybe it's a mixture of the two. It had to be at least partly about Christ's return to earth, because it spoke several times about the Son of Man coming and described pretty graphically how it would be. Sybil. It sounded like science fiction. What do you make of it? Do you really think he will ever come again? Sunlight laughing. Well, the end of that chapter was a sharp warning to the doubter. So you better believe, look, it states that the evil servant who says even in his heart, my Lord delayeth his coming, will be cut asunder and have his portion with the hypocrites. Remember, Sybil, Jesus didn't have much time for doubters. Sybil. If I really dared believe Jesus would return in my day or even after my death sometime, nothing could depress me. There would be a point to my life, something to get ready for, to look forward to. I guess even death couldn't scare me too much. Sunlight. I think I do believe. That is, I believe that Christ lived and he was the Son of God and that he will come back one day to take us, or at least the good people, home. Sybil. Ah, yes. Who are these good people? Sunlight. I don't know. I was just raised to believe that you had to be good if you wanted to make any points with God. So they must be out there somewhere in the churches, I suppose. Sybil. If you believe that, how come you aren't a church member? Sunlight. It's all just too much work. Just reading about it this week sort of got to me. Life is complicated enough without struggling towards some impossible goal. Sybil. Jesus didn't make it sound like work. I underline this passage in my Bible. Come unto me, all ye that labor and are heavy laden, and I will give you rest. Take my yoke upon you and lean on me, for I am meek and lowly in heart, and ye shall find rest unto your souls. For my yoke is easy and my burden is light. Matthew 11:28 through 30. Sunlight. But a yoke is still a yoke, and a burden is a burden. And who wants any more burdens? He also said, he that taketh not his cross and followeth after me is not worthy of me. Matthew 10:38. A cross is not comfortable, Sybil. Yet those men he called followed him gladly and mourned when he died. It brought them no wealth, so they must have found something in his company that made the poverty and the inconvenience all worthwhile. He gave them something better than security. What do you suppose it was? Sybil brings out a pot of tea, and then they chat about other things for a few moments, but soon have their Bibles open up again. Sunlight. Did you notice that in Matthew 19:16 through 22, that one young man he invited to follow him didn't go? Sybil. Because he was rich. That kind of scared me, made me wonder how much of all this means to me, my home, my charge cards, my Lincoln. Sunlight. He didn't dare to believe what Christ offered could possibly be as fulfilling as the role of Mr. Big in the community. You've already told me, Sybil, that money hasn't made you happy. So why would you even hesitate, Sybil? I'll bet you wouldn't leave the security of your job or your cozy little apartment. Sunlight smiling. I'd have to ask Mr. Wright out what, I'd have asked him right out what was in it for me. I really struggled with that one, guys. Sorry. And I already know his answer, for I noted he never promised anyone immediate rewards. Somewhere here in chapter 10, verse 22, he said they would be hated by all men for his sake, but if they endured to the end, they would be saved. And another time he promised the disciples they would sit upon thrones and have a part in the judgment, and that anyone who gave up a lot for him would receive a generous reward and have everlasting life. Matthew 19:28 and 29. But all that was for the future. He promised them only headaches on this earth, and I have enough of them already. Sybil, my favorite passage in the whole book of Matthew was chapter 9, verse 36. When he saw the multitudes, he was moved with compassion on them. I'll bet the fishermen felt that, and it was so warm and comforting that the almighty dollar lost its appeal. Did you notice that when Christ died on the cross, an earthquake opened the graves of some of the saints and they came out to life and went into the city? That's in Matthew 27, 52 and 53. I thought good people went to heaven when they died. But if that's the case, why did they come out of the ground? Meg, I'm boiling with questions. Sunlight. I noticed that too, and I also wondered what it meant when it said, in the end of the Sabbath, as it began to dawn toward the first day of the week, Matthew 28:1. I thought the Sabbath was the first day of the week. At least I remember my grandfather calling Sunday the Sabbath. My head was spinning when I finished studying, Sybil. Saturday night when Michael and I went out, I wasn't very good company. Maybe we shouldn't study anymore. Let's just get together and chat and go out and take some macrame lessons or something. This stuff is way over our heads. Sybil, obviously disappointed. I don't think it's meant to be. We've studied only 1 week, and I thought we discovered some exciting things, more than I ever imagined we would. Couldn't we just try a few more sessions? Why don't you ask Michael about that Sabbath thing? What's his business anyway? Sunlight, he has his degree in behavioral science and works in the social services department for the city. I doubt he knows a thing about religion. His big concern is equality for minority groups. That's a kind of religion, I suppose. Do you believe, Sybil? Sybil, I'm not ready to give a definite answer to that yet. When I'm reading about Christ living here on this planet, I'm pretty convinced. But Bill shakes me a bit when he calls it all charming myth. You know, Meg, it isn't enough to simply believe anyhow. Sunlight, why do you say that, Sybil? Because when I was just skipping around in the Bible before I met you, I ran across a funny verse in James that said that even the devils believe and tremble. James 2:19. Sunlight, so where does that put us? Sybil, I puzzled over that for a long time one night. Finally, all of a sudden, it occurred to me that most of these people who came to Jesus to be healed had to leave their homes and make the effort to find him. Some had to have others carry them out on stretchers. It wasn't easy to get through the crowds that surrounded him. If they had just stayed at home and believed, even though he was the right in their town, they would have never been healed. So maybe we have to come to him. Sunlight, well, how do we do that? Sybil, like we're doing here tonight. I think, searching the Bible to find out what he was like and how he wants us to live. I don't know a thing about prayer, but Jesus felt it necessary to keep in touch with his Father when he was on earth. So maybe there really is something getting on your knees and trying to make contact. It boggles my mind to think that God could find Sybil Norris on his radar and listen to what she has to say. Sunlight, but we aren't sick. Are you sure we need to find him? Sybil, you know, I think this whole planet is sick with loneliness and fear and despair. Can you find yourself in this picture? Sunlight, sadly. Middle section, front row. Sybil, me too. So maybe he has something to offer us if we're willing to expose ourselves to him. Do you know how to pray? Sunlight, now I lay me down to sleep. Sybil, I'm serious, Meg, really, pray. Sunlight, I've always had a feeling it's only a matter of just stating your case. I don't think there are any rules unless you're holding some high mass at St. James Cathedral. Sybil, then how about demonstrating? I really think we're crazy to try to understand the Bible without help. So ask him to give us some direction this next week as we study, okay? Sunlight, right now? Sybil, why not? I'd do it myself, only I'm too shy. Sunlight, head bowed. Lord, we are blundering around in the Bible, coming up with a lot of questions and not many answers. But we do have a shaky sort of faith in you. If that faith is acceptable to you, please help it grow and help us in our study. Amen. Sybil, thanks. Maybe next week I'll try. Now, hurry home and hop into bed. You need your rest. Let's try to wade through the Bible, the book of the book of Mark next week. I am too moved to write. I have heard Sunlight's first prayer, and knowing the prince as I do, I can assure you he rejoices. And the Earth Friend will put all his powers at their disposal. Oh, that every being on the earth would open his Bible, as those two have tonight. Earth Friend's power would flash across that small planet, and the prince would soon have a people made ready for the homecoming. I go now to find him. I must share my joy with someone, and none will understand better than he. Then I shall speak to Sunlight's recording angel, for his heart too must have made glad this night. That's the end of chapter 3, guys. God bless.